Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here, also known as ETCG1 on this channel, and if it's your birthday, happy birthday. Now that we've got the pleasantries out of the way, here's an update on the Jeep. In the comments of the video where I introduced this Jeep, many people suggested that there might be a problem with the valves or valve seats dropping out of the cylinder head. Sometimes happens when apparently these engines overheat. Well, I went looking today and I'll talk a little bit about what I found. Okay, I started by removing the spark plugs, and in fact, I removed number 8 spark plug first. And as you can see, the electrode is bent over. So that gave me my first clue. The other spark plugs weren't like that. Number 8 would be back here. Of course, the most difficult one to get to. So anyway, I decided to take my borescope and stick it down inside the spark plug hole, and I could see a limited amount of stuff. And I'll pull those pictures up for you now. But I couldn't really see a whole lot, so I went a step further, as you can see, and removed the intake manifold. This is the fuel rail here, which I had to remove. I also had to remove the alternator and take the air conditioning compressor loose in order to get that big beast out of there. Now, I also had to take the coolant temperature sensor out so that I didn't break that, and there's no coolant behind it. And if you'll notice here, this water pump doesn't look that old, but you can see evidence of coolant weeping out the weep holes. So what I suspect happened was that this thing got hot. Can Eric undo a radiator cap? Yes, he can. Yeah, there's nothing down in there. So this thing got hot, and when it did, that intake valve, for whatever reasons, decided to give up the ghost. After taking the intake manifold off, it was plain to see it was the intake valve down inside that back runner there that had fallen out. Then you can actually see the remnants of it inside where the piston is. It almost looks like it's embedded in the top of the piston. So now this begs the question, Eric, do you pull the cylinder head off and try to repair the engine that you have, or do you just replace the engine? This is my thinking. If I have to go through the trouble of replacing a piston, there's no point in replacing just one piston. Then you're totally committed at that point. So you might as well go through and do the whole job. And by the time you get done with the cylinder heads and everything else, I have since looked at pricing of engines. Now, as I said initially, this is the 4.7 liter HO, so it's a bit more pricey than your normal engine. Some people suggest that I put a 4 liter engine in this. No, because I'd have to change the computer, the wiring harness, the transmission, in addition to the engine. That's just a fool's way to go, not to mention this is an overland, which I would decrease the value by putting a 4 liter. And for those of you that say the 4 liter is bulletproof, I tend to disagree based on this video. That engine blew up shortly after that, and not to mention that when I was at Pull Apart a couple of weeks ago in Atlanta, I saw several 4 liters that had scattered. I'm not saying that neglect, abuse might have had something to do with that, but my point is, I'm not going to swap this out for a 4 liter. That's just a step backwards in my opinion. However, while I was at Pull Apart, they have a flat rate pricing on engines, but you got to pull them yourself. And I could get an engine, I believe, for about 250 bucks. Now, waiting to find one with an HO engine in it, well, that may take a little bit. Also, my motivation to come in here and pull one of these out, this is the exact same engine as I did with that Dodge engine series, roll clip. Yeah, that wasn't so fun either, and the junkyard engine that I got was locked up. So I had to do that job twice in essence. So this really puts me in something of a conundrum. I believe I'm just going to go ahead and replace the engine. Now, of course, when I get it out, I'll pull the cylinder head off and look down inside, but there's no point in pulling this in, getting the engine out, and having it just sort of sitting on my lift and sitting in my shop and in the way of everything until I'm ready to fully commit. And what I mean when I say that is I want to have an engine ready to go back in this. So that's where we're at. That's the update on the Jeep. And I want to thank everybody that suggested that I check for a valve seat or a valve problem in this, because you were spot on with that. And it made perfect sense, because my description of the problem was that I could rotate the engine all the way to a point, it would stop. I could rotate it back in the other direction all the way to a point and it would stop. So that indicated there was some kind of obstruction. Now, when connecting rods and things go, a lot of times there's only so much movement you get, but this was pretty specific. So it seemed like something was locked up inside the cylinder, and it made perfect sense that there might have been a problem with a valve or a valve seat that had caused the problem. Well, anyway, here we are. So the update is I'm still not in any rush to do any work on this Jeep. However, I do know what's wrong with it, and that's it dropped the intake valve in number 8 cylinder. So now we're all in the know. We can all hash it out in the comments. Perhaps, I know you're going to come up with other suggestions, but don't say put a 4-liter in it. We're past that. Or an LS or any of that other kind of stuff, because too much effort, no. It's just so much easier just to plug stuff back in, and half these connectors on these injectors broke when I took those out just because they were old, plastic, and brittle. Stuff happens. Anyway, if you have automotive questions, I'm going to ask that you head over to air@thecarguy.com. Got answers for you there. Link in the description. Google+, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram if you wish to connect with me socially. I close each of my videos. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.